And it's interesting the mutual appreciation and budding bromance between King Charles and Donald Trump, well, it continues to grow. And an idea that was raised during the first Trump presidency is back on the agenda again.
Is USA joining the Commonwealth? Trump's historic move and what it means for the world. Nearly 250 years after declaring independence from Britain, the United States might be stepping back into the British orbit in a move that could redefine global alliances for generations. President Trump has signaled openness to joining the Commonwealth of Nations, a decision that, if realized, would mark one of the most significant geopolitical shifts of the 21st century. Today, we're breaking down King Charles's secret offer, the intricate geopolitical chess game behind it, and what this unprecedented alliance could mean for you, your wallet, and the future of international relations. But first, let's rewind and set the stage. The Commonwealth, once a symbol of British colonial rule, has evolved into a voluntary association of 56 sovereign states. From India to Jamaica, from Australia to Nigeria, it spans every continent except Antarctica. For America to join would be more than unprecedented. It would be a seismic shift in the global order. Consider this. The last time the US was under British influence, George Washington was leading revolutionaries, and the Declaration of Independence was hot off the press. Now, in a world of shifting power blocks, rising China, and a fracturing Western alliance, is this the ultimate power play by both the US and the UK? Or is it a desperate grab at relevance in a multipolar world? Let's dive deep into this geopolitical bombshell and unpack its far-reaching implications. The bombshell offer: Trump's Commonwealth gamble. Last week, Trump stunned the world by endorsing a Daily Mail report claiming King Charles III plans to invite the U.S. as an associate member of the Commonwealth during a state visit later this year. Trump's response on Truth Social was characteristically bold. "I love King Charles. Sounds good to me, better than NATO. We'll make the Commonwealth great again." But this isn't just another provocative tweet or tabloid speculation. Sources close to the White House reveal that Trump has privately been exploring this option for months, calling the Commonwealth a business-first club that could help him win the trade war with China once and for all. In fact, leaked memos suggest Trump's team has been quietly meeting with Commonwealth representatives since late 2024, laying the groundwork for what could be the diplomatic coup of the century. Why now? Let's connect the dots and dive into the complex web of motivations driving this potential alliance. Tensions with Canada. Trump's relationship with America's northern neighbor has deteriorated to a historic low. His threats to make Canada the 51st state weren't just rhetoric. They were followed by concrete actions. A 45% tariff on Canadian electric vehicles announced in his 2024 campaign and implemented upon re-election. Disputes over lumber pricing that led to a temporary closure of several border crossings in 2025. A controversial attempt to renegotiate water rights in the Great Lakes, which Canada saw as a violation of long-standing treaties. These moves have pushed US-Canada relations to a breaking point. The Commonwealth's diplomatic framework offers a potential lifeline. By replacing ambassadors with high commissioners, a Commonwealth tradition, both sides could reset relations without appearing to back down. It's a face-saving measure with real diplomatic weight. Rebooting the special relationship. Post-Brexit Britain has struggled to carve out a global role, with its Global Britain strategy failing to yield significant economic benefits. Meanwhile, US isolationism under Trump has left traditional allies wary and looking for alternatives. A Commonwealth alliance offers a middle ground, a bloc with shared language, legal systems, and a combined GDP larger than China's. For the UK, bringing the US into the Commonwealth fold would be a massive win, instantly elevating the organization's global relevance and giving Britain a central role in a new power bloc. For Trump, it's a way to engage internationally without the constraints of organizations like NATO or the UN, which he's criticized as obsolete and unfair to America. This isn't just about nostalgia or diplomatic niceties. It's about resources, trade, and countering China. Imagine a US-UK Commonwealth tech corridor. Silicon Valley meets Cambridge's AI labs, with Indian IT talent and Australian quantum computing thrown in. That's a $10 trillion economy waiting to happen. We're talking about a potential innovation powerhouse that could dominate the next century of technological advancement. But here's the kicker, and pay attention because this is crucial. Commonwealth countries already trade 21% more with each other than with non-members. This isn't just a statistic, it's a golden ticket for Trump's economic agenda. For a president who's made reducing the U.S. trade deficit a cornerstone of his policy, the Commonwealth offers a ready-made network of preferential trade partners. It's a way to diversify away from China without the complexities of negotiating dozens of individual trade deals. But it's not just about trade. The Commonwealth also offers a shared legal framework based on common law, making business operations smoother across borders. English as a lingua franca, reducing communication barriers in international business. Establish channels for educational and cultural exchange, which could boost soft power and innovation. Critics argue this move could alienate other trading partners, particularly in the EU. But supporters see it as a bold strategy to create a new economic bloc capable of standing up to China's Belt and Road Initiative. As we move forward, keep in mind, this isn't just about Trump or Charles. It's about reshaping the global order in a way that hasn't been seen since the end of World War II. The question is, are Americans ready to rejoin a club they fought a revolution to leave? King Charles's secret offer. What's in it for the U.S. and why is Trump interested? Now, let's pull back the curtain on what's really in this deal. While Buckingham Palace maintains its trademark discretion, our team has obtained leaked documents from Commonwealth Secretariat insiders that reveal a comprehensive three-phase plan.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present a letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great gentleman.
This isn't just a handshake agreement. It's a meticulously crafted roadmap for integrating the world's largest economy into a network designed for former British colonies. Let's break it down. Associate membership, 2025 to 2026. This initial phase is designed to ease the U.S. into the Commonwealth structure without triggering immediate political backlash. Key points include no obligation to recognize the British monarch as head of state, a crucial concession that respects America's Republican traditions. Priority access to Commonwealth trade summits and green energy funds, including a headline-grabbing $500 million pledge for U.S. solar projects in the Sunbelt states. Cultural exchanges on steroids, fast-track visas for Commonwealth students at Ivy League schools, and vice versa for U.S. students heading to top universities in the UK, Australia, and Singapore. Observer status at Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings, CHOGM, allowing the U.S. to shape policy without full voting rights initially. Tariff relief and trade harmonization. This phase tackles the thorny issue of ongoing trade disputes, particularly with Canada. Canada agrees to drop retaliatory tariffs on U.S. dairy products, a major win for states like Wisconsin and New York. In exchange, Trump would pause his controversial EV tariffs on Canadian imports. All of this would be mediated through the Commonwealth's Trade Dispute Mechanism, a body that gained international praise for successfully resolving India-Australia trade spats in 2023. A new Commonwealth trade fast track would be established, allowing goods from member nations to clear customs up to 40% faster at U.S. ports. Energy and Resources Alliance. This is perhaps the most strategically significant part of the deal. Exclusive U.S. access to Canada's vast lithium reserves, critical for EV batteries and reducing dependence on Chinese supply chains. Technology sharing agreements with Britain's world-leading offshore wind industry, potentially revolutionizing wind farms along the U.S. East Coast. A groundbreaking climate pact, allowing the U.S. to offset carbon emissions by funding massive reforestation projects in Commonwealth nations like Kenya, Tanzania, and Papua New Guinea. Joint development of next-generation nuclear power with Australia and Canada, leveraging their uranium resources with U.S. tech know-how. What we're seeing here is Charles playing the long game and playing it brilliantly. He understands that Trump needs big wins before the 2024 election. This offer lets Trump claim a historic deal without ceding sovereignty or alienating his base. But make no mistake, this is also about securing Britain's relevance in a post-Brexit world. By bringing America into the Commonwealth orbit, even partially, the UK suddenly becomes the bridge between the world's largest economy and a group of nations representing a third of the world's population. It's a masterstroke of soft power diplomacy. Let's talk numbers because they're staggering. Shared legal systems, language, and diaspora networks already save Commonwealth members $7 billion annually in trade costs. Now, extrapolate that to the U.S. economy. For Iowa farmers, that could mean exporting corn to India at prices that undercut non-Commonwealth competitors. For Silicon Valley, it might translate to faster patent approvals in innovation hubs like Singapore and Bangalore. Detroit automakers could see streamlined supply chains for rare earth elements from Australia and Canada. But there's a flip side, and it's crucial we address it. Critics warn that what starts as associate membership today could morph into de facto oversight tomorrow. The fear is that Commonwealth consensus on issues like climate policy or human rights could exert soft pressure on U.S. domestic law. Consider this scenario. If the Commonwealth agrees on strict carbon emission standards, could U.S. companies feel compelled to comply to maintain preferential trade status? It's a sovereignty question that's bound to be hotly debated in Congress and state legislatures across the country. Moreover, there's the question of how this aligns with existing U.S. treaty obligations. Would closer Commonwealth ties conflict with NAFTA, now USMCA, commitments? How would it impact ongoing trade negotiations with the EU? These are complex questions without easy answers. But one thing is clear. If this deal goes through, it would represent the most significant realignment of U.S. foreign policy since the end of the Cold War. What are the global implications? A new world order? B-roll. China, Russia summits. Plus NATO meetings. Plus mineral mines in Africa. UN General Assembly. Plus global stock exchanges. The potential entry of the United States into the Commonwealth isn't just a bilateral issue between the US and the UK. It's a move that could fundamentally alter the global balance of power. Let's break down the far-reaching implications. Economic powerhouse. If the US joins, the Commonwealth would represent an astounding 2.5 billion people and over $10 trillion in combined GDP. This economic bloc would instantly rival China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. We're talking about a market that encompasses the world's largest economy, US, the fifth largest, UK, the fastest growing large economy, India, resource powerhouses like Canada and Australia. This isn't just about raw numbers. The diversity of this economic alliance would make it incredibly resilient to global shocks. When one region struggles, others could pick up the slack.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Thursday night. And we begin with President Trump front and center, meeting with NATO leaders, some of America's strongest allies. But there was a moment that immediately went viral across the globe. After once calling NATO obsolete during the campaign, President Trump scolding fellow members today for paying too little for defense. But it was this moment that caught the attention of many when the president seems to push aside the Prime Minister of Montenegro to get to the front.
NATO. Shakeup. Trump's repeated threats to abandon NATO have sent shockwaves through Europe. A Commonwealth Defense Pact could potentially fill this vacuum, but with a very different geographic focus. Imagine joint naval drills with India in the Indo-Pacific, countering Chinese expansion. Or Australia sharing real-time intelligence on Chinese cyber attacks with US tech companies. The UK's military bases in Cyprus and Diego Garcia could become launching pads for joint Commonwealth-US operations. This shift could effectively pivot US military focus from the Atlantic to the Indo-Pacific, aligning with the perceived threat from China. European NATO members would likely see this as a betrayal, potentially pushing them closer to autonomy or even cooperation with Russia. Countering China. Perhaps the most significant geopolitical implication is the potential to break China's stranglehold on critical resources. A unified Commonwealth U.S. bloc would control over 60% of the world's cobalt and lithium reserves, minerals vital for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles. Currently, China processes 80% of these critical materials. A Commonwealth supply chain could dramatically reduce this dependency. Beyond minerals, this alliance could create a data corridor rivaling China's digital Silk Road, setting global standards for AI, 5G, and quantum computing. Canada's dilemma. Our northern neighbor finds itself in an unprecedented diplomatic bind. As a founding Commonwealth member and America's largest trading partner, Canada would be the linchpin of this new alliance. However, PM Trudeau's successor faces a nightmare choice: side with the U.S. and risk angering Quebec separatists who see this as Anglo domination, or defy Trump and potentially trigger a devastating trade war. Recent polls show 42% of Canadians now support closer economic integration with the U.S. Certainly, here's the continuation and completion of the script. A number that has surged since the Commonwealth rumors began. This could potentially reignite discussions about a North American Union, a concept long dismissed but now gaining traction in light of these developments. Global South realignment. Developing nations within the Commonwealth, particularly in Africa and the Caribbean, suddenly find themselves with increased leverage. They could play the US and China against each other for better trade deals and infrastructure investments. However, there's a risk of these nations becoming proxy battlegrounds in a new Cold War between the Commonwealth-US alliance and China. Countries like India and Nigeria could see their global influence skyrocket as key players in this new bloc. United Nations reform. With many Commonwealth nations already pushing for UN Security Council reform, US backing could finally make this a reality. Proposals include permanent seats for India, rotating seats for Commonwealth regions, and even a unified Commonwealth seat. This would fundamentally alter global governance, potentially sidelining current powers like France and Russia. The UN's role in global affairs could be diminished if the Commonwealth becomes a more effective forum for resolving international disputes. What we're witnessing isn't just about Trump or Charles. It's a 21st century replay of the British Empire, but with trade deals instead of tea taxes, and data flows instead of colonial administrators. And this time, America isn't the rebel colony. It's the crown jewel being courted by an empire reinventing itself for the digital age. The geopolitical chessboard is being redrawn before our eyes. This potential US Commonwealth alliance isn't just changing the game, it's flipping the board entirely. As we move forward, keep this question in mind. Are we seeing the birth of a new world order, or the last gasp of Western hegemony in an increasingly multipolar world? What are the economic wins and risks? Now, let's dive deep into the dollars and cents of this potential alliance. The economic implications are staggering, with both immense opportunities and significant risks. The Commonwealth's 2023 Investment Action Plan set ambitious goals to boost green infrastructure and close a $4 trillion SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, funding gap. Adding the US to this mix could supercharge these initiatives or complicate them enormously. Let's break down the pros and cons. Pros: market access, streamlined exports to 56 nations. Imagine Texas oil flowing tariff-free to Nigeria, or Michigan cars entering Malaysian markets with minimal red tape. Energy security. Canada's vast oil sands could offset OPEC cuts, while Australia's uranium reserves could power next-gen US nuclear reactors. Tech dominance. Partnering with Britain's AI startups and India's quantum computing labs under a new Innovation Shield program could cement Western tech leadership for decades. Financial integration. A potential Commonwealth dollar backed by US could challenge the euro and yuan as reserve currencies. Infrastructure boom. Joint projects like a trans-Commonwealth high-speed rail or a shared space program could create millions of jobs. Cons: sovereignty concerns. Critics fear that disputes over woke policies like climate mandates could land the US in Commonwealth courts, eroding national autonomy. Domestic backlash. Trump's base is deeply skeptical of globalism. A recent Fox News poll showed 68% of GOP voters called the move un-American. Trade disruption. Existing agreements like USMCA might need renegotiation, potentially destabilizing established supply chains. Regulatory nightmare. Harmonizing U.S. regulations with 56 diverse economies could create a bureaucratic quagmire. Geopolitical blowback. China and the EU might view this as an aggressive move, potentially triggering retaliatory economic measures. The U.S. would gain unprecedented leverage in the Asia-Pacific through Commonwealth allies like Singapore and Malaysia, but Washington must tread carefully. This could antagonize the EU, which already sees the Commonwealth as Brexit 2.0. We're talking about a fundamental reshaping of global trade flows. The numbers are eye-popping. Commonwealth foreign direct investment hit $1.7 trillion in 2022 without the U.S. Imagine what those figures could look like with American capital in the mix. But it's not just about raw investment. This alliance could redefine global standards in everything from financial services to environmental protection. However, the risks are equally monumental. A misstep could trigger trade wars, alienate longtime allies, and even spark domestic unrest. As we weigh these pros and cons, one thing is clear. The economic implications of this move will be felt for generations to come. 5. What happens next? The road ahead is rocky and filled with potential pitfalls. Trump's state visit to the UK this summer will be a make-or-break moment for this audacious plan. Here's what to watch for in the coming months. July 2024. Commonwealth heads meet in Samoa. Will the U.S. get a surprise seat at the table? November 2024. The U.S. presidential election looms large. If Trump loses, Biden has already signaled he'd scrap the deal. But if Trump wins, expect a push for a Commonwealth referendum, a constitutional nightmare that could reshape America's global role. Canada's upcoming election. With 42% of Canadians now supporting closer U.S. ties, will their next PM embrace or reject Trump's overtures? Global reaction. Watch for emergency summits in Brussels and Beijing as traditional allies and rivals alike grapple with this seismic shift. This is colonialism in reverse. The U.S. will swallow the Commonwealth whole. As we wrap up, it's clear that we're standing at a crossroads of history. The potential U.S. entry into the Commonwealth isn't just a diplomatic move. It's a reimagining of the global order not seen since the fall of the Soviet Union. Whether you see this as a brilliant strategy to counter China or a dangerous step towards a new form of imperialism, one thing is certain: the world is watching, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Whether this alliance succeeds or fails, one thing's clear. The Commonwealth is no longer your grandparents' post-colonial club. It's a weapon in the new Cold War, and Trump and Charles are rewriting the rules. The next 18 months will decide if this is genius or geopolitical suicide. Smash that subscribe button. We'll be here when the next chapter drops.